Here's one, right here. Back up against that log, looking downhill, downwind. Here's a rub right in the bed. So you can see that. Those bucks from that position, they like to have it kind of open below them so they can see quite a ways. Well, they can smell below them, and they can smell above them, and they can see for quite a ways. It can be very difficult to get close to those bucks while they're bedded in this type of terrain. And a lot of times we've got to be a little further back than what we'd like to be, and it's hard to get them in that daylight window. There's some tricks that we use to manipulate that.
What's up, guys? This is Tim with Hunting the Empire, and this is Hayes. She's my scouting partner for the day. We're out here on a new piece of public. This area has 3 points on it. Looks like a W almost. Basically all facing or situated for south, southwest, west bedding. The first part is the first point that we came to. It's pretty wide open. There's some doe bedding there. You got some pines over there. Like I said, some pretty good doe bedding area. Well-used beds, I guess you could say, at least for right now. This timing. Most likely they used it year-round just because of the thermal cover from those pines. Coming from that bedding area to the middle point. Now this middle point is actually not too far off the road. Basically what they did last year, I drove through here and they were doing some logging. What they did is they made a horse parking trailer, or horse trailer parking, sorry, just over behind me. That's kind of why it looks a little open. They made a barricade of probably about 50 yards of just trees. They just pushed everything back, made this area. So I really wouldn't even think about looking over here, but because the points, I actually want to go to the third point. Coming over to the second point, coming below it, right behind the camera down below, I noticed a large amount of rubs. 54 actually, all throughout the years, the past years, new, old, all of those rubs were facing coming up the hill. So from there, actually skipped coming up top, went around to the third point. Third point had some oaks over there, some doe bedding, really wide open area, little pines here and there, but good circle groups of 6 or 7 beds all through there, some real small tracks coming back. So I came back to this area right down below. All those rubs were concentrated all within a 40-yard span. The other side of the point, nothing coming up it. So coming up the hill, there's 3 or 4 different little benches. Each bench had a rub in it with a bed. Continue on up the hill, I ran into a slight trail that comes across the top of this military crest, and that's what I started running into some bigger rubs coming into this area. Following that trail, which is just 15 yards down below me, I noticed this rub, and there's several rubs all in a circle. Every rub down below had been moving with a purpose, or being made with a purpose, coming up the hill. When I got to this faint trail coming back, which is going north, those rubs were found, basically a rub line coming into it. Now we're into a circle area with rubs. Right behind me, in Hayes, there's a large bed. So from here, knowing what we have in the area, we have doe bedding to the southeast of us, and then to the northwest of us, we have more doe bedding and oaks. On the opposite side of those doe bedding, which is about 1.25 miles away, is a long stretch of ag fields. Last year they had corn. Hopefully they have some beans in it this year. I should be able to do some glassing. So that trail that we came in on, that rub line, was a very faint trail. Just behind me, going back to the north, that trail gets pretty heavy. Those beds below actually came up. The trails were coming up towards me. So they actually kind of funnel over to this one trail, which is all headed back north. most likely because of the oaks, the ag field. There's probably better browsing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the orange hat out the bag, hang the orange hat up, and we're going to go just around the corner on that exit route until I can't see that orange hat anymore, and we're going to start looking for a tree to set up on. It's hanging up right above the buck bed. Alright, so hung the orange hat, and we're just around the corner. I can't see it. Probably went about another 20 yards. As soon as I could barely see it, into this area. As you can see, there's a high stem count. A lot of little brush through here. Really difficult to get a shot. Onyx says we are 389 feet away from that bed, where we're going to set up here. So I am actually standing on that trail right now that comes across. Don't really see anything down below me, just above me, kind of there's a little bit here and there, but I can get right behind. I can get a shot to that camera, to this trail. This trail actually goes straight, which is actually, there's an oak right here, which I just noticed, so that could be good. So this is where the spokes on the wheel starts to take place. It looks like that trail stayed heavily used all the way up into here. It goes straight down, continue on to the north, which is still real thick cover, and then it actually veers down a little bit to what looks like a small little bench. So what we're going to do here, I have two options. I have either the tree in the back. I'm not going to be able to get a shot off from there either. I got some rubs up here. So my other option is this tree. As you can tell, the one's dead. The one next to it, smaller, isn't. At least it's a split tree. The good part about it is I can set up on the back side of it. There should be some leaves on there. This is all going to be pretty heavy cover. It's going to give me a 10-yard shot, if that. If it's behind it, 20 at the most. Up close personal, I know which direction he's coming from. I don't have to worry about every route. If he comes, this will be an evening sit. If he comes from this way in the evening time, I'm probably already going to blow him out, coming into it. So right now, we're looking at about 4 sticks up, 10-yard shot. So from here, we're going to mark out Onyx, and we are going to map out our entrance, which is probably the most important part about this thing. Like I said, there could be some satellite bedding here. There's obviously some other areas over on this side that they could bed in, depending on deer density. So we really want to make sure we nail down my entrance route to that stand site. What we're going to do is we're going to go through, we're going to try to map it out. We're going to memorize and write down some landmarks just to make it easier. Because by the time I come in here next year, this is going to look completely different when it's covered in leaves. Especially to that tree from that bottom. With a high stem count, I have the standing sticks on my back. A lot of the twinging and sticks hitting it could be loud. So I want to make sure that I find myself the clearest possible way. So yeah, that's going to be a setup. Alright guys, so I was kind of expecting this to be here. Basically what we have here is a thermal hub. We have the 3 points that we just checked. The first doe bedding, the primary buck bedding area, and then the third doe bedding area. The side that we didn't get to, that we really probably won't today, but would be for bedding just right on the other side of the valley. Those points actually dump into this area too. So right now we have a convergence of points. Trails coming down each point, coming down into this area. Perfect area for every deer to check everybody throughout the whole entire area. This actually is dumping out into those ag fields. So if I can't monitor by glassing from the road, which could be a little sketchy, and people know what you're doing, I can actually get into here, coming up this creek behind, or over the side of me. There's a tree off to the side. This creek should be going pretty much year round. If not, it's got steep enough banks where I don't really see deer coming across back and forth. So I can get to it, I can monitor this. Any deer in the area, any mature buck in the area should be using this, should be checking on it periodically. And then from there, because of that area, the way is, I'm gonna assume that that buck would be coming from that area, either going to or coming from. So basically that bedding area that we found, there's a possibility that it could be a rut spot, rut bedding, just because between the two doe beds, the sign that's left there. The thing with it is the amount of fresh poopies all over the place. Big soda can sized poop everywhere. So that kind of makes me think it's primary. Won't really know to another couple months. So with that, basically narrowed it down to 2 solid exit routes for them to go, and I can monitor both. Well, with deer, I mean it's deer, so nothing's for certain. So if they decide to go to the south, basically what I'm doing right now is I'm walking down the road. It's got a soft shoulder. I could monitor that bedding area by possibly walking up and down this road, looking at that soft shoulder, looking for tracks, and then the community scrape. That scrape down there before they head out to those fields, or coming from those oaks, I should be able to get something that's living in there, at least on camera. I think that's about it right there. Try to get it all figured out on the go. It's kind of difficult. As you're looking at one thing, another thing pops in your mind, and then another thing tells you it's different. So hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. But yeah, until next time.